Like a garden snail leaves a trail behind, a story snail leaves a tail behind. Share our stories and you may find you can tell a story too.
Hello everybody, welcome to my sitting room. I've got a lovely Christmassy fire going here because we're still in our time of Advent, waiting and preparing for all the good things that are coming. Are you getting excited? I know I am. Well, I wonder if you can spot our themes of waiting and preparing happening in this story that I'm about to tell you. Because this is a story about somebody who had to do a lot of waiting very patiently. His name was Jan. And Jan was a very poor man who was in love with somebody called Lynn. Lynn was the daughter of a very rich man, and that was the problem. You see, when Jan went to Lynn's father and asked if he could marry her daughter, the rich and selfish father said, "No, certainly not. Somebody like you marry my daughter. You don't have nearly enough money." And Jan said, "Oh, but I can get money. I can do something. Please, Lynn and I really are in love and we want to get married so much." And the rich man said, "Well," and then his little selfish eyes began to twinkle because he had worked out a way that he could get some free work from Jan. "Well," he said, "how about you work for me and I pay you, and if you can manage to save up £5,000, then I will let you marry my daughter." "Certainly," said Jan, "of course I will, I'll work for you." And so he started working on the rich man's land. But the rich man never paid him very much money at all. Jan had to put a little bit aside, and he still needed to keep a little bit in order to be able to eat something. But every day for a whole year he put a little bit aside, and at the end of the year he went to the rich man and he said, "Look, I've saved £500. Please can I marry your daughter now?" "500?" said the rich man. "We said 5,000. Absolutely not. Work for me for another year and see if you do any better." So poor Jan went away to work for another whole year. He took his axe and he went into the forest to chop down some trees. And as he was chopping and chopping, he was thinking how hard it was going to be to save up £5,000, how many years he would have to work for if the rich man never gave him any more money than he was getting, and how he was never going to be able to marry Lynn. Eventually, Jan felt that it was all just too much, and he sat down underneath the tree to have a rest. He leaned back against the tree, he closed his eyes, and he tried to imagine what it would be like to marry Lynn. And as he was imagining it, he fell asleep. Now, while Jan was asleep, some monkeys climbed down from the tree he was leaning against. And they gathered all around him, and they looked at him, and they scratched their heads, and then they scratched their armpits, because that's what monkeys do. And they said to each other, "What's this? What have we here? It looks like a man, but I don't think it is a man, because it's not moving." And they started to poke Jan. Jan had woken up again by this stage, but he didn't want to disturb the monkeys. He thought if he made any sudden movements, they might turn nasty, so he lay as still as he could, and he kept his eyes shut. The monkeys carried on poking and prodding him. "It looks like a man, but it isn't a man. It's not moving. What is it?" And one of them got a long piece of grass and poked it up Jan's nose and started to wiggle it. Jan lay as still as he possibly could, and he kept his eyes shut. And then one of the monkeys leapt up onto Jan's chest and hit him with his fist like this. And when he did that, it made air come out of Jan's mouth so that he made a noise like this, "Ooh." And when he did that, the monkey said to the other, "Oh, I know what it is, I know what it is, I know what it is. It's not a man, it's a drum. Listen. Ooh, 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 ooh. We've got a big man drum." And then all the other monkeys started to clap and chant and dance around Jan, while the first monkey played his chest. "Ooh, ooh, 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 ooh. We've got a big man drum. Ooh, 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 ooh. We've got a big man drum." Ooh. Would you like to try being monkeys and join in with that? I'll do the rhythm, and then you say, "We've got a big man drum." Are you ready? Here we go. Ooh, 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 ooh. We've got a big man drum! The monkeys were so excited about their big man drum that they decided to take Jan back to their cave. So they picked him up, with one of them still sitting on his chest, and they started to swing him through the trees. Jan still kept his eyes as tight shut as he could and stayed as still as he could, while the monkeys sang, ooh, 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 ooh. We've got a big man drum! Ooh, 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 ooh. We've got a big man drum! Don't drop the big man drum! Then they started to carry Jan across a shaky rope bridge, but Jan still kept his eyes as tight shut as he possibly could. And he stayed as still as he possibly could, while the monkey sat on his chest and they all sang, ooh, 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 ooh. We've got a big man drum! Ooh, 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 ooh. We've got a big man drum! Don't drop the big man drum! Then they came to their cave and they set Jan gently down with one of the monkeys on his chest still playing, ooh, 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 ooh. We've got a big man drum! Ooh, 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 ooh. We've got a big man drum! Jan kept his eyes tight shut, and then one of the monkeys said, let's decorate our big man drum! And all of the other monkeys went racing around the cave, finding things to put all over Jan. Now the things they found were things that they had found and liked and stolen over a long time. There were shiny jewels and shiny coins, and they covered Jan in them from head to toe. And all the while the big monkey still sat on his chest going, ooh, 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 ooh. We've got a big man drum! We love our big man drum! They played Jan and sang and decorated him almost all night long, but just before dawn the monkeys started to get tired, and one by one they crept away into the corners of the cave, and they closed their eyes and they went to sleep. When Jan was absolutely sure that they were all asleep, he opened first one eye, then the other, and then he looked down at himself and saw that he was covered with beautiful shiny jewels and coins. As quietly as he could, he gathered them up and he put them into his pockets and up his sleeves and anywhere else he could carry them, and then he tiptoed out of the cave, across the wobbly rope bridge, around the bottoms of all those trees that they'd swung him through earlier, and made his way back home. And when the sun came up properly, he went to the rich man's house with all of his jewels, and he said, now can I marry your daughter? Well, the rich man's eyes got huge, and his jaw nearly hit the floor. He said, where did you get all those jewels? And Jan said, well, never mind that, I've got them, you can have them, please let me marry your daughter. But the rich man got that selfish glint in his eyes again. I'll let you marry my daughter if you can tell me where you got all those jewels, he said. So Jan said, all right, I'll tell you. And he did. He told the rich man everything about how he'd fallen asleep under the tree and how he had stayed absolutely still while the monkeys thought that he was a drum, how they'd carried him to the cave and covered him in jewels. And the rich man's glinty eyes got glintier, and he said, you just wait there, I'm going to do something. And he scurried off, straight into the forest. The rich man went to the tree that Jan had described. He sat down underneath it, leaned back, closed his eyes. He didn't go to sleep. He waited. And before too long, the monkeys came down from the tree. And they said to each other, is this our big man drum that we lost? Doesn't look quite the same. Do you think it sounds the same? And so the big monkey leapt up on his chest and hit him. When he did that, it took the rich man a bit by surprise, and he went, ow! The monkey said, no, it doesn't sound the same, but never mind, it's still our big man drum. And he started to play. Ow, 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 we've got a big man drum. Ow, 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 we've got a big man drum. And then they picked the rich man up and they started to swing him through the trees, Oh, he kept his eyes as tight shut as he could, and he didn't like it one bit, but he kept as still as he could, remembering Jan's story, and the monkeys carried on singing, "Ow, ow, 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 oh, we've got a big man drum! Ow, 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 oh, we've got a big man drum! Don't drop the big man drum!" Then they started to carry the man across the wobbly rope bridge, and he did not like that one little bit. And the monkeys were singing, "Ow, ow, 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 we've got a big man drum! Ow, 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 we've got a big man..." The rich man opened one eye, just to see where he was. And he looked, and he saw the rickety rope bridge, the deep ravine below with the jagged rocks, and the river gushing past at the bottom. And he went, "Don't drop me!" Well, when he did that, the monkeys were so surprised, guess what happened? Of course, they dropped him. Splash! And that was the end of the rich man. But Jan, with all of his jewels and money, and Lynn got married, and they lived happily ever after. But from that day on, monkeys have still been looking for their big man drum that they lost twice. And they hit their own chests trying to make the same noise. Big monkeys go, "Ooh, ooh, 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 ooh," and little monkeys go, "Ow, ow, 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 ow." Did you spot the themes of waiting and preparing in that story? Sometimes it's really hard and uncomfortable to wait, isn't it? Although I bet it's never quite as uncomfortable as it was for Jan when he had a blade of grass poked up his nose and wiggled. What's the hardest thing you've ever had to wait for? Maybe you could chat about that to a grown-up or a friend later today. But now it only remains for me to say cheerio, and I hope to hear your story soon. So, cheerio, and I hope to hear your story soon.